Today we have with us Mr. Amrit Sanjeev, a staff developer advocate at Google. Obviously, Google is one of the most sought after organizations. What are the key things that they need to inculcate in themselves to be the right fit for such companies?
There are problems that they solve for the first time. So you can't really look at Stack Overflow or another place to kind of solve something efficiently. A developer advocate, most people think of them as only people who are speaking about technology. But our way is actually a developer advocate is a two-way street.
One Google product you can't imagine your work without.
But from a student's perspective, I think colleges create.
Hi Amrit, welcome to LPU.
Thank you.
We had the session in the morning with the students, and now we have collated a few questions, which, from the larger audience, we are not able to cover all. And this would reach out to the larger audience. And these questions are around what they are curious about and somewhat what we are curious about.
Okay, let's go with it.
So the first thing that, which comes when someone look at your profile or someone looks at the detailing about your career is that you've spent the journey across IBM, Philips, Intuit, and now it's been a decade at Google. What have been the biggest turning points in your career that shaped you to be here today?
I would say I was continuously learning. So it was like my first 10 years or 8 years at IBM was a constant learning exercise, and I was like trying to get my skills out there. I moved to a research role, trying to move more totally into a researcher thing. Worked there for 3 years at Philips Research, did the initial work that I had to do, file my patents and all that. I was like, I really wanted to get back to the industry, so I went to Digital Insight. I think the turning point or the most fundamental thing that shaped it is where I started working a lot with communities. I built the few communities in the city. For developers, we did the Android developer community called VL Android, which still runs, by the way, after 16 years. We still have a lot of people turning up for the events. And then we expanded it to multiple cities. And that was actually something I was very happy doing. And we were working with a lot of external developers also. And that was a job role that I really liked. And then when opening at Google came for it, somebody suggested my name, and that's how I moved to Google finally.
Great. So your passion met job, that's why.
Finally, yes. Yeah.
That's the best that can happen. Now, coming to looking at students, because your career, you build communities, a lot of that communities would involve a lot of students as well. Now, for students or maybe young professionals, the role of developer advocate, sounds a bit abstract. Yeah. How would you describe what you do and why it is so important today to develop a ecosystem around developers?
Okay, so a developer advocate, most people think of them as only people who are speaking about technology, coming on stage, giving lectures and things like that. But our way is actually a developer advocate is a two-way street. It's we call it two-way bridge in between. So if you look at companies, we have engineering teams, we have product teams. Then we have external community of developers who are using these products. Developer advocacy is actually the bridge between these two. It's actually a strategic function. It's not a support function. It's a strategic function, which is the bridge between external world and the internal world. So you not only help developers build on the using our APIs and platforms the best way, we also gather a lot of feedback, market insights, bring that back to engineering and product so they can refine things and make the product more aligned to what the market requirements are. So that is more of the critical functionality that we do, which usually is not very visible and people don't get that aspect of it.
Yes. It's around what your advocacy is about. So you work very closely with Android OS and mobile platforms. How do you see the mobile ecosystem evolving with this new opportunities of AI and developers coming up?
So a lot of the 2-3 aspects which of it is changing. One, where how developers are building mobile applications is changing, which is basically the tools that they're using, how much of vibe coding or coding with an AI along with them, how much they're taking advantage of that, how well they're using AI to kind of take the output of tools, run it through AI, this kind of create outcomes out of that, and then feed it back into the system. So this whole process of the developer productivity is improving drastically. There's a lot of changes in that area. That's one. The other aspect which is changing a lot is in terms of what the user is consuming. So there's a lot of AI involvement in creating solutions for users right now. So simple things like if you take a Gmail mail, for example, a long mail thread is there. We usually put a summary on top. And for that, you're using device AI to kind of show that summary. So things like that are changing where users are also not now expecting these sort of AI use cases to be part of applications, and developers are building a lot of them. And India has shown, I mean, in our global portfolio of things, India has shown a tremendous increase in the number of AI solutions that parent companies have actually thrown out. And they're not very complicated things, but they're very, very useful things. So how we talk about it is that India is throwing out a lot of pragmatic solutions using AI and improving user productivity or helping user delight go to the next level very quickly. So developers here should get the kudos for that.
Great. Certain students or certain segment, they fail understand what developer communities are. As you have been deeply involved in supporting developer communities, what actually roles these community play in shaping careers, and how can students be a part of it and help their growth journey?
I think it's very critical. This is something that in our uh, ecosystem, it's picking up now. But earlier, when we started, there was a lot of skepticism around it. When the initial communities were built, there was a lot of skepticism around why this is happening. The give back sort of a concept was not very clear. So they kept asking, what is there for the organizers doing it? Why are you making money out of it? So those sort of things. But from a student's perspective, I think colleges create, and it is not by design, but in college, a lot of students actually are competing with their colleagues. And the environment where you collaborate and influence without authority, the opportunity for that is a little less because of academics and how people are working with that. Not most organizations are like that, and that's our traditional education system. Whereas communities, everything is about collaborating and working together. And also, there's so much to learn now. You have to learn from your peers also. It is just that you cannot consume all the information out there. That's where a lot of engineers and developers are actually coming back to developer communities and sharing their knowledge out. And this not only cements their reputation as a good engineer, it also helps others grow. So both, it's actually a win-win situation. So the person who's actually sharing it is sealing their reputation and cementing themselves in, and for the person who's listening or is absorbing that information is able to go and gain that knowledge a lot faster. So people should be involved. Uh, and then there's a very low cost area to kind of, I mean, when I say cost in terms of cost of failure is very low in this because it's a very safe space. It's a bunch of people who are like-minded, who are most only interested in understanding from you, are very lenient about you failing at saying or communicating something. So building a communication skills, all these aspects become really, you get a test bed where you can actually try and do all these things and gain from the rest of the people at the same time. So it's always a win-win for everybody involved in a community. I don't see a negative aspect of a community when you participate in it.
Great. So as someone who has been helping developers build Google technologies, which current or upcoming innovations excite you the most?
I think some of the integrations of AI and the part it plays in developer productivity is really, really good. And I feel like those who are investing in that and going ahead is having tremendous improvement in terms of productivity. We recently ran some innovation. I mean, recently ran some experiments with developers in Bangalore, and we saw a bunch of people who were using these tools earlier able to do things which could take 40, 50 minutes in like the first couple of minutes. So there's a lot of developer productivity. It's not like a small bump of 10%. It's like multiple X productivity is happening. So it allows developers to kind of focus on a lot of the right harder problems, more larger, higher concepts and things like that. Whereas things about simpler things like writing documentation or test cases, those things which were earlier writing boilerplate code, which is part of a lot of the applications, is now getting remote and they are getting automated. So people are actually having to focus, not forced, but they have the time to focus on the harder engineering problems, which has more impact. So it is it's on one area where I'm like really happy to kind of see tools actually picking up. So developer productivity and tools and usage of tools is an area where I'm very excited about.
Great. And now, many final year students aspire to land job. Obviously, Google is one of the most sought after organizations, but companies similar to Google, and when they look at and they want to be there, what is the mind shift or what are the key things that they need to inculcate in themselves to be the right fit for such companies?
So a lot of times when companies like Google or like Meta or all those large companies, there are problems that they solve for the first time. So you can't really look at Stack Overflow or another place to kind of solve the kind of or solve something efficiently because there's no reference of it earlier. So there are greenfield problems. what we call it, a few problems. Right? We get to solve a lot of that as engineers, which is an opportunity in itself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if your fundamentals are not very strong, then you cannot attack these problems very well. So I always tell people work on the fundamentals, that and the computing side. So on a technical aspect, rather than the higher level concepts, the most important things are the fundamentals. So once you know that really, really well and you focus on that well, you have the ability to solve really large problems because when you disassemble it, this boil down to these fundamentals. Right? And again, reassemble the solutions based on that. So that becomes very important on the technical side. The other aspect is most of these companies have distributed teams. Uh, they are not co-located usually. They are from different cultures. So communication becomes an absolutely important thing. So you have to build communication skills. You have to be able to articulate the problems really well. You have to be able to share your even your impact to the company, right? You are expected to share that clearly. And if you're not able to do those things, growth in these companies become very challenging. It is not just the easiest part. I mean, jokingly inside Google, we say the easiest part is to get into Google. The tough part is only after that. So the whole point is it's very satisfying, but at the same time, it's also if you don't have the right skills, it can become very stressful also. So that is something I would say communication on the technical side. The most important thing is the fundamentals part, and on the soft side, the communications will definitely improve.
Okay.
Proving that is important.
Before moving towards the end, a small rapid fire asking few questions which you can answer either in a word or a line, whichever way you feel comfortable.
Sure.
One Google product you can't imagine your work without.
A Gmail.
Most underrated skill for developer today.
Communication. Absolutely.
A common mistake you see in students or freshers making in tech interviews.
Not asking the boundary conditions, jumping into solution. You have to understand problem. You have to understand problem before trying to answer it. So understanding boundary, like understanding or asking questions back to the interviewer about what they need to do. So jumping into solutioning would be the one sentence for it.
Right. Every same interviewer that I ask is the same answer I get, jumping to the solutions. It's kind of in their blood, I think so. If not a developer advocate, what role would you see yourself in?
So still will be engineering. I'll still continue. I was an engineer earlier before developer advocacy. I was a I was a staff architect and Intuit. So I would continue doing that sort of work.
And finally, how was your experience coming to university for this Google Fair event?
It was fantastic. I think one, it's not just the scale of the event, which actually is surprising for people, the number of students, yeah. But the questions that people asked, they were also quite relevant, and I was quite a little taken aback that in my college days, weren't thinking, so these kids are so much ahead of us, so, which was really nice. It was good that at university level they get these opportunities, and they also are exposed to more people out there, so they get the best of both worlds.
Thank you, Amrit, for being here. It was great interacting with you.
Likewise, my pleasure.